So this morning I'm working on the 1927 Armstrong Siddeley 14.4 Broadway Saloon. I was driving it a couple of weeks ago and there was a bit of a clonk and rattle, rotational clonk and rattle as I was driving along. It sounded a little bit like the universal joint, so I stripped it apart and found that the ball bearings that sit in the universal joint as the shaft comes from the clutch, the ball bearing there, found that the ball bearings were somewhat oval. 7/16 ball bearings they are, so I ordered some more, and this one we're going to replace them. Also replaced the boot or gaiter from the gearbox output shaft, or input shaft should I say, and it so happens that it's exactly the right size for a Land Rover Discovery 3 TDV6 CV boot. So I fitted that, not exactly original, but it does the job. This car at some point in its past has been fitted with an alternator which is driven from a pulley connected to the output flange. There's the original output flange, and this pulley has been welded, not very well it has to say, but it does the job, to the flange. The car's been converted to 12 volt with an alternator. So I fitted the new boot or gaiter. I'm now going to fit the new ball bearings into the 3 holes and fit the pulley onto the shaft and bolt it all up, and hopefully be able to go for a drive before too long. We've got a modified, it's got the modified boot on here. Now needing to fit the original leather style gaiter with a metal securing ring first. That fits over there like so. That's it. And then you fit the flange. This is quite tricky to fit. Now it's got a pulley on it, not really space to fit it in. It does fit obviously, but with a little bit of brute force required to, well, not so much brute force, a little bit more juggling around. And now to fit the ball bearings, which I actually dropped earlier. There's the second of 3. Third one is down here on the floor. There we are. You pop the third ball bearing in, and then we slide this up the shaft and it locates in to there we go. That's now there we go. That is the UJ, the universal joint, assembled with very little play in that shaft. Previously I had about 1/4 of an inch play or movement in the shaft, causing the clonk. You now need to bolt it all together which means getting these bolts through the back of the flange, lined up with this part of the flange, without the ball bearings all dropping out. It's all a little bit fiddly, made quite a bit harder by this pulley. I've got all 4 bolts done up on the back of the flange. So this is now and the clutch operating correctly. So we now need to attach my TDV6 hop shaft CV boot onto there. There we go. And then this boot, which is original design leather boot, needs to be rethreaded and tightened. It was done very neatly, but unfortunately I had to disturb it all in the process of putting them back together. And we can now give this some oil. This is 140 weight transmission oil. I'll find the bleed or the oil nipple in there somewhere, which is there. We'll put this in from over here. There we go. Pump a nice lot of oil in there. Yeah, I can see the oil coming through there while I'm here. I'm going to give a couple of pumps on there as well. I've done up these 3 screws here that hold the original leather gaiter in place. Done up this Jubilee clip here, which holds my Land Rover Discovery TDV6 CV boot, CV joint gaiter in place. Attached this in with a Jubilee clip. Left free at this end to allow the shaft to spin. I might pack that out with some felt or something at some point, but it's better than it was before, where there was nothing on that output at all. Now I need to re-thread this leather rope and then this winds round like this. I'm sure there's a correct way to do this, but so then this ties back together. No doubt someone will tell me that I've done this all wrong. Right, now I think I'm going to clean up the grease off this pulley and the belt, reattach the belt. There's very little play there. Unfortunately I didn't take a video of the play before I started the job, but there was a good 1/4 inch and quite a clonk. And then when I took it apart, the ball bearings were very obviously oval. So I've refitted this pulley with 3 new 7/16 ball bearings in the universal joint, refitted the original leather gaiter, oiled up the universal joint with 140 weight heavy axle oil, replaced this gaiter, well, which was missing altogether. So I've put a Land Rover Discovery TDV6 CV boot or CV joint boot gaiter in place. Fits perfectly on the gearbox and on the Jubilee clip. There's enough clearance there for this shaft to spin. I might pack that out with some felt at some point, but at least it will catch any oil that comes out of there, stop it flicking everywhere, and it will stop road dirt going in there. At least it will be a massive improvement on what was there before. Reconnected the alternator drive belt, so I think we're ready to clean everything up, reinstall the floor and go for a drive. Okay. Just now I need to check the gearbox level, or the gearbox oil level. It does leak quite a bit, and it's done quite a few miles since I last filled it up. And when I filled it up, I filled it from completely empty. It's at the bottom of the filler. I'm going to put some in just because, in my view, you can never have too much. This is where we try and get it all in the gearbox. There we are. Much better level. There we are, that's all the floor reassembled, ready to tidy up and go for a drive. Just a look at what else is in the garage today. We've got a 1967 Rover P5 3 litre coupe automatic. Something a little bit different. Vectra VXR. It's a 2.8 litre V6 turbo. One of very few left in almost immaculate condition. And we've got a 1964 Rover P4 95, which hasn't actually been out since September, when it went to the Isle of Wight and met up with some friends from the Armstrong Siddeley Owners Club. Unfortunately, this one is stuck in the garage unless I move 3 other cars, and there's usually something in bits right at the entrance. Okay, right, I'm going to tidy up and then we'll take the 14.4 out for a drive and hopefully find that the horrible squeaking, graunching, rotating noise that was there has now disappeared. Right, well, the floor is back in, garage is cleared, just open the gates and then we'll start the engine and see. Okay, right, well, turn on the fuel tap. Turn the switch to M for magneto. Pull out the strangler, as they like to call it. And on the bad idea, turn on the master switch. And we give the hand throttle a little bit. Retard the ignition very slightly. And to there. A little bit more choke perhaps. pleased to report that the squeaking, launching, grinding noise that was there has now disappeared. So it turns out it was just excess wear on the ball bearings that had gone somewhat oval. They've now been replaced with 7/16 hardened steel bearings, and all appears to be good.